We're going to have Michael Uslan on the show. He is the legendary producer, that's what it says here, behind Batman and several other movies, including Constantine and in fact, a number of the Batman series, including The Dark Knight. Michael, welcome to the Young Turks.
Hey, thanks a lot.
We appreciate you coming on. So, what I'm most interested in, I'm interested in a lot of your career, but what I'm most interested in is how you got started and wound up being the executive producer of all of these movies. Were you born into the movie business at all, or no?
I wish it was that easy. I was a blue-collar kid from New Jersey, didn't have enough money to buy my way into anything, didn't know anyone in Hollywood, didn't have any relatives in Hollywood. But from the time I was about 8 years old, I was absolutely flipped over Batman comics. I just loved the superhero. I think because he had no superpowers, his greatest superpower is probably his humanity, and he had the greatest villains in the world. And so starting when I was 8, that was it for me. And I always wanted to, when I saw the TV show come on the air, I was simultaneously thrilled and horrified by what I saw. I was thrilled that Batman was coming to TV, that somebody was spending a lot of money on it, the car was cool, but I was horrified that everybody in the world was laughing at Batman. And I think it was at that moment that I said, okay, someday I am going to bring the original version of Batman, the way he was created in 1939, as a creature of the night stalking criminals from the shadows. I'm going to bring that to the silver screen. And that became a goal. It was my passion in life, and that's what really propelled me.
The Dark Knight, as it were. Now, Michael, whenever anybody's from New Jersey, since I'm from New Jersey, I got to ask, where in New Jersey?
I was born just off exit 13A, and I grew up down in exit 105.
All right, I got you. It's pretty close. I'm exit 9 myself on the Turnpike. All right, so how do we get from you got this obsession, you want to bring Batman back, to you actually doing it? You go to Indiana University. What happens next?
You know, you got to look for a way to get your foot in the door somewhere. As my mother used to say, you got to figure a way to market yourself and make your mark. There was an experimental curriculum department in the Arts and Sciences Division at that time. If you had an idea for a college course that had never been taught before and could get the backing of a department on campus, you could appear before a panel of deans and professors and pitch it, and if they okayed it, you could teach it for credit on campus. So I developed the world's first course on comic books. Comics is a legitimate American art form, as indigenous to this country as jazz, and comics is our modern-day mythology. It's contemporary folklore. It really is. To me, the theory is the ancient gods of Greece and Rome and Egypt still exist, only today they wear spandex and capes. So I went in with my hair down on my shoulders, armed with my love beads and my Superman comics, and pitched it to a panel of professors after getting the backing of the folklore department. And the dean let me speak for maybe 2 minutes and then cut me off. And he said, Mr. Uslan, he goes, I'm sorry, I don't believe any of this. He said, I read comics when I was a kid. I read every issue of Superman I could get my hands on, but these things are nothing more than cheap entertainment for children.
You know, I read that part of your bio, and actually, the funny thing is that enraged me. I was like, how could they not see it? It's obviously an art form. And I'm not a big, a huge fan of comic books or anything like that. I know a lot of guys are. I'm not in that category. But it's, to me, that the fact that it's as you say, an indigenous art form is so overwhelmingly obvious.
Well, I think you got to put it in the context of the time. The dean was of an age kind of around where my parents were, and my parents were the exception to the rule. They grew up hearing how comic books were awful. They were lurid sensationalism that would turn an entire generation of children into juvenile delinquents. There was a book out called Seduction of the Innocent that, among its many anti-comics claims, said that comic books caused asthma because children were staying inside to read them instead of playing in the fresh air.
Hey, look at how you turned out, Uslan. You see that? I think they were on to something.
Yeah, the little boy who never grew up is really what it was.
By the way, let me just make one other quick note here before we move on to the next part of the story. When I was a kid, I used to read comics in Turkey because I lived there till I was 8 before I went to exit 9 off the Turnpike. Okay, and I would read, and I didn't know that they came from America. And I would read Texas Tomix. And then only many, many years later, when I was in America, did that occur to me? Oh, Texas and Tom Mix.
How funny.
I was like, oh, I get it now. I thought it was like from Turkey.
This stuff was universal. It played everywhere.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, there's, maybe I was a particularly, not so bright kid. But it's an art form that came from America, obviously, but was definitely universal and spread throughout the world. So then you do this course. How does that lead to the movie?
Well, I was teaching the course, and I got incredible publicity on this course. There was never a time I taught a class that wasn't filled with television cameras and reporters from every magazine you could practically think of. I was invited on TV and radio talk shows, and that led to my getting a call from Stan Lee, the co-creator of the pantheon of Marvel superheroes, and from the president of DC Comics in New York, who published Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. And to make a long story short, they said, what you're doing is great for the whole comic book industry. We really think you're an innovative guy, and how can we work together? And next thing I know, being flown to New York by DC Comics, I get what starts out as a summer job there, turned into a writing job. I began writing The Shadow, and then a dream I had since I was 8 came true. I was writing Batman comics while I was going back to school, and one thing led to another, and finally I went to the president of DC Comics and I said, look, I want to raise money and I want to get the rights to Batman and turn it into a dark, serious movie. And he was very fatherly toward me. This is a guy who had mentored me into the business, and he says, Michael, please. He goes, save your money. Don't do that. He said, since Batman went off the air on TV, nobody's been interested in Batman. It's as dead as a dodo. And I convinced him otherwise, and he told me to go get credentials and come back and see him, that nobody was going to take the rights to Batman. And he was right. I went off for a few years, started working at United Artists Studio when it was a real big movie studio, learned how you finance and produce pictures, came back, and he said, all right, come on in. And 6 months later, my partner Ben Melniker and I acquired the rights to Batman. It was October 3rd, 1979. And we thought we were home free. I thought everyone was going to line up at my door, and boy, I couldn't have been more wrong.
God, you've been at this thing forever, Michael.
Well, it's ironic. This is the 20th anniversary of our first Batman film with Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton, the genius Tim Burton did. And it's the 30th anniversary of the day I acquired the rights to Batman, because it took me 10 years to get that first movie done. 10 years. It was a human endurance contest. They all told me I was nuts. They thought that a dark and serious Batman was the worst idea they ever heard in their lives. And I was thrown out of lots and lots of offices.
Look, I guess you probably won't answer this, but I'm enormously curious as to how much it cost to buy the rights to Batman back then.
Well, back in '79, it cost as much as any major kind of property. It was no less than Superman or anything like that. So it required a lot of money to get raised for a brief period of time to try to set it up, and we had a clock ticking loudly in our ears the whole way. And to try to describe how it happened, I would say it finally happened simply on the basis of bloody knuckles, of knocking on doors and having them slam in my face, and then picking myself up, dusting myself off, going back and knocking again and knocking again and knocking again until my knuckles started to bleed.
And so you wind up just raising the money, and you're the head of this group that's raised the money, but it's actually other investors that are...
Yeah, it was people that my partner and I knew, relatives, friends, anybody who would believe in me and believe in what my idea was. And luckily some people took the trip, and although it was an awfully long haul, and we literally had to tighten our belts to the final notch, and our backs were against the wall many times in that 10 years, it finally happened. It broke every box office record, really, and the rest became history.
Okay, let me ask another inappropriate question. After, the first Batman comes out and it's a blockbuster hit, could you retire at that point? I mean, did all this pay off for you?
Well, let's put it this way. This is the best way I can do it, because this is pretty much the way I've governed my life. It was a dream come true. How many people get to have a dream come true in life? And I got to work with a few geniuses like Tim Burton and Anton Furst, our production designer, who designed Gotham City, the Batmobile, the whole look of that picture, won the Oscar for it. It was an amazing thing, and it was something I dreamed about since I was a kid. And I just got to measure success in those terms more than anything else.
Okay, so you didn't answer it. Okay. All right. Now, you went on to create several other movies, of course, in the Batman series. But in that first Batman, and I guess I'm curious about the role of the executive producer. I know you have the rights to it, you raise the money, etc. But did you have any role in who they selected as the actors, or do you just does an executive producer have nothing to do with that?
Oh no! From the beginning, I did I'll never forget this. A 17-page single-space memo, kind of like a creative blueprint for a dark and serious Batman movie that I wanted to see. And right from the beginning, I felt Jack Nicholson at that time was the only actor I knew of who could play the Joker. That really was brought home to me a couple of years later when I saw that great picture of him from The Shining, the "Here's Johnny" shot.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the New York Post one day as I was riding on a bus heading back home, and I tore it out. I got to my desk. I whited out his face. I took a red pen and did the lips. I took a green magic marker, did the hair, and then I used that to show to everybody from then on as to why Nicholson was the only one who could play the Joker. So I'll plead guilty as charged on that one, and it was certainly Tim who came up with Michael Keaton to play Bruce Wayne, because I couldn't believe it when I heard it. I was apoplectic. After all these years of trying to do a serious Batman, he's suggesting Mr. Mom to play Batman.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about, Michael. I mean, have you grown comfortable with that since?
Oh, this was part of Tim's genius, and this is what I had to learn and had to appreciate. He said to me, Michael, you want to do a dark and serious Batman movie, right? Nobody's ever done a dark and serious comic book movie before. We have to get the audience to suspend its disbelief and believe in Gotham City and believe that this guy would get dressed up as a bat and go out and fight crime. He says, with Michael Keaton, and they showed us a rough cut of Clean and Sober to prove that he was a great serious actor, and he was. He said, with Michael Keaton, I could portray Bruce Wayne as a guy so obsessed, so driven to the point of being psychotic, that audiences will go, oh yeah, that guy would get dressed up as a bat and go out and fight crime. And he was absolutely right. And the one line he said to me when I said, but Michael doesn't even have a square jaw. And he said, Michael, going from comics to another medium to film, a square jaw does not a Batman make. It's all about believing in Bruce Wayne.
All right, now let me ask you, again, I'm not sure you can answer, but Michael Keaton or, well, actually, first let me ask you, Jack Nicholson or Heath Ledger?
Two completely, absolutely brilliant portrayals. Jack Nicholson in Tim Burton's movie was doing the ultimate clown prince of crime from the comic books. The guy who represented that great comic book struggle of good versus evil right out of the pages of Batman #1. The other geniuses here, Chris Nolan, who deserves all the credit in the world for Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, all the credit. What he and Heath Ledger crafted, besides just being the performance of a lifetime, was a Joker that people thought was real. This guy could exist. He was a terrorist, a homicidal maniac, someone who placed no value whatsoever on human life, man, woman, child, or his own, in a battle, unfortunately, that we see today in the world of order versus chaos. Two completely different interpretations, two valid interpretations, one so chilling because you can believe that the Joker, just like Batman, Bruce Wayne, could exist in this world.
You know, let me move on to the next question then. In the last Batman, they portrayed Batman as basically spying in on Americans. Some said, well, that was kind of almost a Bushian take on Batman. What do you think about that? Do you think that there's some element of truth in that or no?
Oh, I think it's hysterical and wonderful when both sides of the political spectrum are claiming Batman. I've heard equal arguments on the left claiming, well, here's a guy who's a vigilante who goes up against the bureaucracy, the red tape, operates completely on his own, is anti-government regulations and things. So I've heard everybody on both sides trying to claim Batman. And I think that part of the genius of Chris Nolan has been to create a character, to craft a character that people can relate to, representing all interests and all beliefs. And it's something that we found is crossing cultures, it's crossing boundaries, demographics, gender, and it's a character and a primal origin story that people can really relate to.
All right, Michael Uslan is the producer of Batman, many of the Batman movies, including, of course, The Dark Knight, the original, etc. Now, before we let you go, real quick, what are we doing for the 20th anniversary, and do you have any other projects going on, Michael?
Well, we've just had a celebration out in L.A. for the 20th anniversary of the first Batman film. Saw it again, beautiful new print on the big screen, which was wonderful. Warner's has released the Batman collection of the first few Batman films with lots of extras on it, and it's just great. It's out there, and people should see it. And in the context of its time, it was absolutely revolutionary and influenced every single comic book type movie that has come since, whether in tone, look, or even in Danny Elfman's musical score. And coming up in the future, I think there's going to be some really, really great new comic book movies coming out from DC, from Marvel, from the independents, and I think it's really becoming a golden age of comic book movie making, and that's really, really cool. For somebody who's a confessed comic book geek, to suddenly see it's all cool now, and the basis of all these blockbusters and hit movies and hit animation, all I can say to my fellow geeks is we win.
Michael, any chance they make Texas or Comics as a movie one day?
Yeah, have your people call my people. We'll do lunch.
Or Zagor. I used to read Zagor back in the day. All right, Michael, thanks so much for joining us on the Young Turks. We really appreciate it.